very proud to be here today. You may have been waiting 10 minutes for this press conference to start, but the club has been waiting 100 years for this particular tournament to get underway. So I'd like to very much warmly welcome the members of the head table to take their places and tell you exactly what's in store for this tournament. First up, Mr. Hiran Mutaya, who is the president of the CRNFC in its centenary year. Mr. Jack Dias, General Secretary of the CRNFC as well. Mr. Jihan Kanaratna, past president and also the chairman of the Centenary Committee. And Mr. Zulka Hamid, who is the secretary of the Centenary Committee. And Mr. Dilroy Fernando, who is the tournament director of this much look forward to tournament. Gentlemen, if I can ask you please to take your places at the head table. It's interesting what we can learn from history, because 100 years is a long time. Centenaries are not something that a lot of us get to celebrate. There's probably 1% or 0.5% of human beings who get to have a centenary year. And it's not often that clubs of this stature also get to celebrate something as monumental as 100 years. And what better way for a rugby club to celebrate 100 years rather than with a sevens tournament, a rugby tournament indeed, featuring men and women and of course school children as well. When you look back on the history of CRNFC, it obviously was started in 1922, but when you look back at that time, cricket clubs dominated, and there were two older clubs, the Gymkhana Club and Havelock Sports Club. But if you look at the cricket clubs, you might learn something about society at the time, where you have the Tamil Union Club, you have the Burger Recreation Club, you have the Moors Sports Club, you have the Sinhalese Sports Club. So you can see that there was a fair bit of segregation going on at that stage. And it's not unlike the man who started this club to be the president of what was then called the nondescript sports club, who didn't want to attach any labels and who didn't want to be segregated by any accident of birth. And that is exactly the thinking that E.S. Joseph had when he thought of starting the Ceylonese Rugby Football Club, because for a while there was not a ban, but sort of a prevention of Ceylonese people, if I could use the word brown people like you and I, playing the sport of rugby. So this was really a sea change in the way rugby was played, and that's why the CRNFC is not just a rugby club, but it is also a monumental rugby club for taking a step in the history of Sri Lanka. But to tell you more about the club, his plans for the next couple of months, I'd like very much to invite the President, the man who has taken on the mantle in this wonderful year, Mr. Hiran Mutaya, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Shanaka.
Thank you, Shanaka. I think you've taken most of my words out already. Good evening and welcome to this media briefing of CRNFC's centenary year Rugby Sevens tournament. Lovely to see many familiar faces from the media, and thank you for being here in support. In 1922, Colonel E.S. Joseph founded the Ceylonese Rugby and Football Club as the first rugby club dedicated to Ceylonese. About 4 years later, the club had a caravan shack as its clubhouse, as it entered its first Clifford Cup final. The CR, as the club is popularly known, has since won 14 Clifford Cups, along with a plethora of other trophies along the way. Although in more recent years, the trophy cabinet has not been disturbed. Fast forward 100 years, today the club offers sporting facilities for about a dozen sports. It features 2 modern pavilions, and its membership alumni is a rich tapestry of some of the country's finest sport rugby players of their day. Off the field, the CRNFC members have served the game of rugby in administrative capacity, from the provincial to the international levels of the sports governing bodies. The CRNFC continues to be a trailblazer. It was the first club to welcome female membership, first to grant female voting rights, and active participation in the General Committee, the club's administrative arm, and the first civilian rugby club with an A-division women's rugby team. The club's Centenary Committee Chairman, Mr. Jehan Kanratna, has a number of events to commemorate the occasion. The CRNFC Centenary Rugby Sevens is probably the most anticipated by the rugby public. The response from the invited teams has been resounding. We are grateful to those teams for their support of the tournament. It is expected that 3 to 4 international women's teams will bolster the 4 local women's teams in the women's section of the tournament. Mr. Dilroy Fernando, who needs no introduction to this audience, is the tournament director. He shall update us on the tournament specific details momentarily. I wish to thank our sponsors who readily responded to our requests, despite the prevailing tough business climate. Without their support, most likely this tournament would never have been possible. My thanks also to the Centenary Committee, the Tournament Committee, the General Committee, the CRNFC office and ground staff, and of course our members who have all rallied to make this our centenary year a memorable one. The Red Shirts have done CR proud, winning 7 of the 8 matches played this season. With 2 remaining matches for CR in the Nippon Paints League, I am confident this talented young team can make what seems impossible very possible. I commend Captain Kavindu Di Costa and Head Coach Dushanta Liuke for their leadership in this our centenary year. Last but not least, thank you, the media, for your continued coverage of rugby in general and for your support in covering the CRNFC Centenary Sevens Rugby Tournament. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much, Ted. And he mentioned that the CRNFC team, being the first non-services team to field the team, also Ted has done a lot for women's sports, and hopefully it will be a kickstarter for a lot of other clubs to follow perhaps, and of course CR to go from strength to strength, segregating not only across racial lines but also across gender lines. Next up, of course, Mr. Dilroy Fernando, who, as Ted said, needs no introduction to this audience, but he has a plethora of experience both at Asian Rugby and as a World Rugby educator as well. He's running the tournament, he's the big boss, and he will tell us all about the 8 teams competing in the men's and women's draw and the 12 school teams as well. Dilo, over to you.
Thank you, Sharada. As the President, Mr. Buddha mentioned, everybody has been waiting for this tournament. We have mentioned this. Actually, the first tournament committee meeting was held, I think, about 1.5 years back. And we have had 22 meetings since then in organizing this tournament. So it's not that we started last week or last month. A lot of work has been put in. And we've been discussing, arguing at meetings, how many teams should we have, how do we approach the sponsors. So as I said, a lot of work has been put in. And also we've been approaching sponsors, and I'm proud to say the club has been able to attract 15 sponsors to this tournament. And a big thank you to all our sponsors, all our partners for coming on board. Without your support, we would have been able to organize this tournament. So also a big thank you to the school teams. We have got 12 teams who have been invited, and they all have confirmed their participation. And the press kit, you will have the names of the teams, so I'm not going to mention the names. Everything is given on the press kit. So we've got 4 teams from Kandy and 8 teams participating from Colombo. And teams from Kandy will be provided accommodation during their stay in Colombo. Also, the teams will also be provided with lunch and on Sunday dinner for all the participating teams by the host club. In the men's clubs, we've got all 8 club teams confirmed participation, 8 division clubs, and a big thank you to the teams, 8 division club teams for their confirmation. In the women's, as Ted said, we've only got 4 teams in Sri Lanka, and Sri RNFC is the only club apart from the Triforces who are playing in the women's rugby. So the tournament committee decided to invite teams from overseas, and we've been successful in getting a team confirmed from Australia, India. Being our neighboring country, we wanted India to participate in the tournament. Rugby is growing very much in India, and the next team, third team, would be either Thailand or Indonesia, and we're waiting for that confirmation. And the eighth team would be a combined team from Sri Lanka. So it will be on invitation. So that will be the eighth team. The match officials, we've invited the Sri Lanka Rugby Referee Society to provide us match officials. Also at the same time, we have invited overseas match officials. So we've got confirmation there will be 2 referees from Japan, a male and a female referee, and India is sending a referee who's also in the Asia Rugby top panel, and there will be 4th referee from Singapore appointed by the Asia Rugby. So there will be 4 overseas referees joining the local referees in refereeing in the competition. So in the schools, we've got, the schools will kick off on 31st March, which is Friday, and the tournament will kick off at 10:30 a.m. And there will be 16 games on day 1, with the cup plate quarterfinals also concluded on the same day. So on Friday, the 31st, we will only have schools participating, and there will be 16 games, and the last game will be at 16:40. And on Saturday, we will have the clubs, men's and women's tournament. And the first match will be at 9 a.m. with 22 games on Saturday. With the last match kickoff will be at 4 p.m. So Sunday, we will have the final round games, the semi-finals of the schools. Also the clubs, men's and women's semi-final. Again, we wanted to make a difference in this tournament, so organizing committee have deliberated, and we decided to play the men's cup final first, followed by the schools final, and then the women's final as the last game for the day. That will be at scheduled for 5:10 p.m. on 2nd April. So the tournament, we are hoping to introduce all the World Rugby guidelines, and also tournament rules will be as per the World Rugby tournament rules, 7 rules, and we want everybody to enjoy, not only the players, the spectators, the match officials, everybody needs to be enjoying. So we will have security in place, and also considering the player welfare and safety, which is paramount importance. There will be qualified doctor in place, World Rugby qualified doctor, and also qualified match commissioners, and including the sideline officials. So all these people will add value to the tournament, because we want to showcase Sri Lanka Rugby to a high level with the CRNFC tournament on world stage, because we have foreign teams coming in to participate. Also, we are hoping to have live streaming of the tournament, with Opera coming on board as the official digital partner. Also, there will be carnival atmosphere during the tournament. There will be food courts and ice cream, so you can bring in your kids. You know, the schools. We have the schools and the club representatives here. You can invite your mothers or fathers, your brothers, sisters, everyone to participate in the tournament. Be here, enjoy the 3 days of rugby football, and we all need support from the media, electronic and print media, to support us so that we could showcase the tournament to be on the world stage. Everybody will appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Leroy Fernando, and it promises to be a real spectacle of rugby. We all know what the Hong Kong Sevens is like, and perhaps it's something a little bit towards that we are aiming for here with the Centenary celebrations. Who knows, it might even be an annual event if it goes off the way we want it to. But it won't be possible without many of you, ladies and gentlemen, in the crowd today. and the club is extremely grateful for, in a difficult time, in a difficult climate, for the sponsors to have come forward so generously, and we would like now to recognize them, pictorial as well, for the rest of the media. So if I can ask the gentleman of the head table, maybe Hiran, if you can come up, and we'll present the check and ask the sponsors to come up and be photographed with the Centenary check. So very happy to have almost 15 sponsors signed up. It's a big check, Jahan, we all have to get. So you can ask the sponsors just to come up and be photographed alongside Hiran. First up, Mr. Rishad Zain, Senior Executive Marketing of the Navaloka College of Higher Studies. You can please come up and be photographed with him. Thanks very much, Rishad. And then, of course, we have SAGT and the Colombo Logistics Group. And if I can ask you to just come forward. Thank you very much. And also we have Mr. Asham Vikramanayake, Assistant Vice President of NDB, to come up also and please be photographed. And Mr. Vikramanayake is on his way. We have Montrella Consultants, Mr. Yusri Abdullah, the Managing Director, please to come forward. Thank you very much. John Keels have, as usual, been extremely generous. They're providing 2 sponsorships, the official food and beverage partner and also the official indulgence partner through their brand Imorich. Can I call upon the CEO of Keels Foods, Mr. Viranga Vikramaratne, please to come forward. Hospitals and rugby players are never too far apart, and we're very happy to have our City Hospitals Group on board with us. May I ask the Director Marketing, Ms. Rochelle De Silva, please to come on. Our official clothing partner will be Reborn, but also to present the match ball, I would like to call upon Dilroy, who is sponsoring through his Eagle Academy the Rhino match balls to be presented to Iran. As you know, the tournament would be nothing without the digital, print and broadcast media, and we're very happy to have Mr. Sudarshan Apiris, the rugby manager of the Papare.com, who are the official digital partners of the tournament. the official radio station of the tournament, I'd like to call upon Mr. Manilal Fernando, the head of sales of Yes 101. March and April are hot months, so we're very happy to have on board our hydration partner, American Water, represented by Mr. Ashoka Virakun, DGM HR. Thank you very much, and that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much to all of our sponsors individually and collectively for agreeing to be a part of this wonderful show that we have planned for you. And the Centenary Committee has been working furiously behind the scenes. If you've been watching what's been going on the field, CRNFC have risen from 7th place last year to kind of the correct end of the table where they usually belong. And they're number 2 with a theoretical chance of still winning the league, of course, in the next couple of weeks. However, a team that has been working even harder is the team that has been working under Mr. Jahan Kanagratne. He's no stranger to this club. He's a past player, a past president as well, and he has been given the mantle of spearheading the Centenary Committee, and he will thank you all for being here and also tell you maybe a little bit more about what the Centenary Committee has done. Jahan?
Thank you, Shana. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. The Centenary Committee, which formed about a year and a half back, had planned a whole slew of events. I'll just quickly go through that before I give my vote of thanks. So we had our opening ceremony on the 25th of September last year. And the second event is the Centenary Rugby tournament on the 31st of March and 1st and 2nd of April. Then plan on having a rock concert in June or July. It may vary depending on weather conditions. And then we have a Rugby Legends dinner on the 20th of September. That's a Wednesday, where we plan on also inviting CR former players as well as players from the other clubs and other dignitaries. And then our annual Scrum and Tackle dance, which we will rename the Centenary Scrum and Tackle dance at the hotel, Cinnamon Grand Hotel, on the 23rd September of September. And then we have the curtains down, which is a final ceremony to close up the centenary year on the 24th September at our clubhouse. This tournament would not be possible without lots of you today at this event. We have actually 16 sponsors and donors, of which we can only mention 13. So, and you saw all those who were here today, and we thank you very much and appreciate the support to the CRNFC and this tournament, and to make that centenary tournament a successful one, with the hope that in the future people will realize that we could do such tournaments and make it a more carnival atmosphere and bring rugby as a key sport of the country. Today, something that both Ted and Dilroy mentioned was that the gender equality that the club is pushing through, and for this tournament, our prize winning will be the same for both men's and the women's teams. The school teams will get a little less, but the both men's and women's teams will also get the same value. If not for the press and media, we won't have all the PR and the communication about this tournament. Thank you very much for your support. I have to thank the Centenary Committee who have been steadfastly working. We've been meeting every 2 weeks, and in this month, the next month, we'll be meeting more often to ensure that the tournament goes smoothly. And our CR employees and the staff for all their work and their effort that they put in. And also like to thank Shanaka for being our MC today, and everyone else if I have missed. Thank you very much. We will leave it to Shanaka.
Thanks, Jehan, and thank you on behalf of the club for the wonderful job that you are doing as chairman of this committee, assisted ably by your fellow scrum half, Sulka. Ladies and gentlemen, it's over to you now. The media always has questions. If you don't, that means we've been super clear. But please do ask any questions. There are mics around if you need. We will send them over to you. Any questions with regard to the tournament, the CRNFC, the Centenary celebrations, anything you'd like to ask, please do. This is your time. Most of the information is available for you in your press packs, so all the details that Dino spoke about will be there for you for your publication purposes as well. But any other questions, please feel free.
Question for President Thailand. How would we be able to entice so many promotion partners in this area?
Thank you for the question. How did we manage to attract so many sponsors? I think that's the question. One is, I think rugby football still is a very attractive proposition to commercial businesses insofar as the following spectator sports. It's still quite wide interest in the community. The other, I think, CRNFC celebrating 100 years with a strong history for doing the right thing. Starting off, of course, with the intention by our founder, Colonel E.S. Joseph, who wanted to set up a rugby club for Ceylonese. And that theme has continued right through, culminating more recently, far too late, of course, is the equality for women and men. And I think what Jehan mentioned earlier, that we are providing the winning, thank you, the winning bonus for each of the men and the women's team is equal. And I think that follows with the Australian Open tennis, where I think they're also trying to achieve that level of equality. So I think this is what businesses are looking for. In sports sponsorships, it's very seldom that they can make an equal or a connection between $1 spent to $1.20 return. I think it's more about goodwill, it's about brand positioning, and associating with companies of good reputation or companies, sporting bodies of good reputation that then resonates with the broader community. So I think it was a relatively easy sell, but in a very tough business environment, as we mentioned already. So hence the reason that we are very grateful to our sponsors who have never been shying away whenever CI has gone to them. They have been quite supportive. So thank you very much.
Mike, please.
The draw will be held on 23rd of March. So it will be 23rd of March. The tournament draw will be held here for the clubs and schools.
There are something about women's teams that we have overseas. Are they club teams?
Club teams, yes. We decided to invite only club teams, but because we have 4 clubs playing this tournament, also our competition is club competition. So, club or provincial.
How will you able to these clubs and schools to take part in this tournament?
Yeah, so clubs A division we only have 8, all 8 when we wrote to them they accepted our invitation. Women's also, we only have 4 women's teams, they all accepted. Schools earlier, we only wanted to invite 8 teams, that was the decision, but then from there we increased to 10 because there was a request from 2 other schools. And finally, we ended up in inviting 12 teams because we invited last year's joint champions, Vidya and DSM as well. They were joint champions in 2022 season. So we had 12 teams playing in the school competition. Altogether, 28 teams are playing in the competition over a period of 3 days.
You also said that you have to tackle certain issues and explain the sports and all that. What were the sticking points?
Sorry.
What were the sticking points that you had at this meeting to get better solutions?
With the committee, yeah, so we were deliberating, how many teams should we be inviting, what sponsorships, how challenging it was going to be, because that was the time it was so difficult to get sponsorship, but then when we met sponsors, it was all good and very positive, very supportive by the sponsors. So there were issues like that which we had to overcome.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other questions?
You know what's the price mark?
500,000 for the champions in men's and women's clubs, and 250,000 for the runners-up. And in the schools, 250,000 for the champions and 125,000 for the runners-up.
Anyone else with any questions? No? If there are no further questions, then just to add to Iran's answer, Kali, I think at SIA, even though it's not the oldest club, it is known as the home of rugby. So there is something in the air that attracts people, whether it's sponsors or players, and you can count on the fingers of one hand recently the amount of players who have played for Sri Lanka who haven't at some point played for SIA. So there is a certain attraction that this club has, and that's something that we really need to take into account, even though it's an intangible. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Thanks very much to the head table and the members of the Centenary Committee for the work that they've been doing. Thank you all for taking time off. I know it's a busy media day today as well, so thank you very much for coming. And we hope to count on your support as the tournament continues, as the Centenary year continues as well. Please join the President for cocktails later on. Thank you.